The sound of children laughing should have been cheerful, but all I could hear was the ticking time bomb of my mother's expectations. I stood in my niece's backyard, clutching a perfectly wrapped gift box containing the latest Nintendo Switch, knowing it wouldn't be enough. Nothing ever was. I'm Meredith, and I've spent the last 15 years being my family's ATM. Aunt Mary! Zoe came running, her princess dress trailing behind her. You came! She crashed into my legs, and for a moment, everything felt worth it. Her 8th birthday party was in full swing, with balloon animals and face-painting stations dotting the lawn. Wouldn't miss it for the world, sweetheart. I handed her the gift, and her eyes lit up. Before she could tear into it, my brother Cade appeared, looking sharp in clothes I probably paid for. "Hey, sis," he said, that familiar gleam in his eye. "Mom's looking for you." Of course she was. I'd been dodging her calls all week, ever since she'd dropped hints about Cade's latest temporary setback. I'd prepared for this moment for months, but my hands still trembled as I smoothed down my dress. "Zoe, honey, why don't you go show your friends your new face paint?" Cade suggested, and she skipped away, the gift forgotten on a nearby table. I spotted Mom by the refreshment table, arranging cupcakes with military precision. Dad hovered nearby, pretending to be absorbed in his phone. Some things never change. "Meredith, finally." Mom's voice carried that edge I knew too well. "We need to discuss something important." "Mom, this is Zoe's party. Can't it wait?" "It absolutely cannot." She grabbed my elbow, steering me toward the house. "Cade's in trouble." I pulled away. "When isn't he? This is serious." Her eyes narrowed. "The bank's threatening foreclosure on his house. Zoe could lose her home." And there it was, the emotional ammunition she always used. "How much?" I asked, though I already knew. 75,000. She said it like she was asking to borrow $5. "You have that much in savings. I checked your account statement when I was at your house last week." My blood ran cold. "You went through my personal papers? Family has no secrets," she declared. "Cade needs this. Zoe needs this." I looked across the yard where my niece was getting a butterfly painted on her cheek, blissfully unaware of the adult's drama. What Mom didn't know was that I'd moved my money 3 months ago, after finding her snooping in my home office. "I can't help this time," I said firmly. Mom's face darkened. "Can't or won't?" "Both. Everyone!" Mom's voice carried across the yard, making heads turn. "I need your attention, please." Oh, God, she wouldn't. "Our Meredith here," she announced, "has decided that her own niece isn't worth helping, that her own brother should lose his home." The party went silent. Even the face painter stopped mid-butterfly. "Mom." Cade stepped forward, looking uncomfortable for once. "Not here. No. Everyone should know what family means to some people." She was building steam now. "After everything we've done for you, Meredith, after all the sacrifices..." I felt a calm settle over me, the kind that comes with absolute certainty. "What sacrifices, Mom? The college fund you used for Cade's failed restaurant? Or maybe the inheritance from Grandma that mysteriously went to his investment opportunity?" Dad finally looked up from his phone. "Sophia, perhaps we should..." "No, Ralph. She needs to understand her responsibility." Mom turned back to me. "You will help your brother. You will write that check today." I smiled, and I saw uncertainty flicker in her eyes. "No, Mom. I won't." "Your account..." "is empty," I finished for her, Has been for months. You taught me well about family having no secrets, so I made sure to protect mine. The silence that followed was deafening. Cade's face had gone pale, and Mom looked like she'd been slapped. In the background, Zoe's laughter floated across the yard, a reminder of innocence in the middle of our adult warfare. "You ungrateful," Mom started, but I cut her off. "I think it's time for cake," I announced loudly, plastering on a smile. "Zoe, sweetie, ready for your birthday song?" As children rushed toward the cake table, I caught Dad's eye. He gave me the smallest nod, and for the first time in years, I felt like maybe I wasn't completely alone in this family circus. The war had begun, but at least now I was fighting on my own terms. The party aftermath left a bitter taste that even birthday cake couldn't mask. I sat in my car outside Cade's house, watching the last guests leave, when a tap on my window made me jump. Dad stood there, his weathered face tight with concern. "Mind if I join you for a minute?" I unlocked the passenger door, and he slid in with a heavy sigh. We sat in silence, watching Mom direct the cleanup effort like a general commanding troops. "Remember when Cade crashed my first car?" I asked. Dad winced. "The blue Toyota." 3 weeks after I bought it, I'd saved for 2 years working at that coffee shop. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Mom made me give him my insurance money so he could buy his own car instead. "Meredith." "I was 18, Dad. My first real purchase, and you both acted like I was selfish for being upset." He rubbed his face. "We made mistakes." "Made?" "Present tense. You're still making them." I pulled out my phone, scrolling through my photos until I found what I wanted. "Look at these." Dad squinted at the screen. Credit card statements, loan applications, all with his signature. All for Cade. "Mom forged these," I said quietly. "I found them when I was helping organize your office last month." His face went ash gray. "That's not possible. The bank called me last week. They wanted to verify your signature on Cade's new loan application. Apparently, I'm listed as your financial advisor." I laughed without humor. Funny, since I never agreed to that. A knock on my window made us both jump. Cade stood there, his charm turned up to full wattage. "Family meeting inside," he announced. "Mom's orders." Dad and I exchanged looks before following Cade into the house. The living room still bore traces of the party, deflating balloons, scattered wrapping paper, the remnants of childhood joy now tainted by adult drama. "Sit down, everyone." Mom stood by the fireplace, arms crossed. "We need to discuss Meredith's behavior today." "My behavior?" I remained standing. "Let's discuss fraud instead." Cade's head snapped up. "What? Show him, Dad." I nodded toward my father. "Show him the signatures Mom's been forging." "That's ridiculous," Mom scoffed, but her face had lost some color. "Ralph, tell her she's being dramatic." Dad stayed silent, studying his hands. "Where's Zoe?" I asked suddenly. "Upstairs, watching her new Switch," Cade replied. "Look, sis, about the money." "The money you need because you took out a third mortgage, or because of the gambling debts?" His face went blank. "How did you—" "I'm an accountant, Cade. Did you think I wouldn't notice the patterns? The late-night casino withdrawals? The payday loans?" Mom stepped between us. "That's enough! Your brother made some mistakes, but he's family. We support family." "No, Mom. You support Cade. The rest of us just pay for it." I turned to my brother. "Tell her about the inheritance." "Cade," Mom warned, but he was already talking. "It wasn't supposed to be permanent," he said quickly. I just needed startup capital for the food truck business, once it took off. That was my inheritance too. I cut in. Grandma left it for both of us. But somehow, the paperwork only had your name when it came time to distribute. Mom's lips pressed into a thin line. Your grandmother understood family loyalty. Did she understand identity theft? I pulled out another document. Because using my social security number to open credit cards is illegal, Mom, even if you're family. The room went deadly quiet. Even the sound of Zoe's video game upstairs seemed muted. You wouldn't, Mom whispered. I already did. My voice shook slightly. The police have copies of everything. They're investigating the fraud. I filed the report last week. Cade collapsed onto the couch. Jesus, Mary. I gave you chances, both of you, so many chances. I looked at each of them in turn. But you took everything. My savings, my inheritance, my credit, my trust. We can fix this, Mom said desperately. As a family. We're not a family, I interrupted. We're a pyramid scheme with Christmas dinner. Dad finally spoke. What do you want, Meredith? I want what's mine. I want my life back. I headed for the door, pausing with my hand on the knob. And I want you all to face what you've done. The police will be in touch. You'll regret this, Mom called after me, when your brother loses everything. He already has everything, Mom. Everything that was mine. I opened the door. Now he gets to learn what earning it feels like. I left them there, surrounded by birthday party debris and the wreckage of their own making. In my rear-view mirror, I watched Dad sink onto the porch steps, head in his hands, while Mom's silhouette paced behind the living room curtains. The truth was out. Now came the storm. 3 days after the birthday party explosion, my phone buzzed with messages I refused to read. Instead, I sat in my lawyer's office, watching Sarah review the stack of documents I'd collected over the years. This is extensive, she said, flipping through another page. Your mother was thorough, I'll give her that. Thorough at stealing from me. I picked up my coffee, now cold. What's the next step? Before Sarah could answer, my phone lit up with Dad's face. 10th call today. You should answer it, Sarah suggested. Document everything. I put the phone on speaker. Hi, Dad. Meredith, please. His voice cracked. Your mother's not eating. Cade's talking about moving across the country with Zoe. We need to talk about this. I'm with my lawyer right now, I said. You're welcome to join us. A long pause. A lawyer? Really? Really? We're discussing the identity theft, the forged signatures, and the misappropriated inheritance. Your Aunt Carol called, he said, changing tactics. She's furious about what this will do to the family name. Sarah raised an eyebrow at me. The family name? I laughed. Tell Aunt Carol to check her credit reports. Mom's been opening cards in her name too. The silence on the other end was deafening. I'll text you the lawyer's address, I said. Come alone, or don't come at all. After hanging up, Sarah leaned forward. Your aunt might want to join the complaint. It would strengthen the case. Trust me, once Carol starts digging... My phone buzzed again, a text from Cade. Need to see you. Bringing Zoe, please. Sarah saw my hesitation. Meeting in a public place might be wise. Witnesses. An hour later, I sat at a coffee shop downtown, watching Zoe color while Cade stirred his 4th sugar into his coffee. You look terrible, I said. He did. His designer clothes were wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. Mom's losing it, Mary. She burned all her papers last night. Dad had to call the fire department. Destroying evidence is a crime. It's Mom, he emphasized, like that explained everything. Maybe once it did. Aunt Mary, look. Zoe held up her drawing, a family of stick figures. That's you and Daddy and Grandma and Grandpa and me. It's beautiful, sweetheart. I smiled at her, then turned back to Cade. Why are you here? He glanced around before lowering his voice. I need help getting out. Really out this time. Right. I'm serious. He ran a hand through his hair. I found a job in Seattle. Tech company, entry level. It's not much, but you need money to move. I stood up. We're done here. No, wait! He grabbed my wrist. I don't want money. I want to make a statement. About Mom. About everything. I sat back down slowly. What kind of statement? I'll testify. About the fraud, the forgeries, all of it. I kept records too, you know, just in case. Just in case he needed leverage, he meant. Classic Cade. Why should I believe you? He looked at Zoe, still absorbed in her coloring. Because I want her to have at least one parent she can be proud of. Before I could respond, a familiar voice cut through the coffee shop. There you are! Mom stood at our table, face flushed. Several customers turned to stare. Mom, not here, Cade warned, but she was already launching in. Secret meetings now? Plotting against your own mother? She grabbed Zoe's drawing, turning it over. Look at this! A happy family! Is this what you want to destroy, Meredith? Grandma, you're squishing my picture, Zoe said quietly. I stood up again. Mom, leave. Now. Or what? You'll call the police? Go ahead. She was causing a scene now, her voice rising. Tell them how you abandoned your family. Tell them how you... Ma'am? A barista approached. I need to ask you to leave. This is a family matter. Mom. Cade stood too. Stop, please. She turned on him, eyes wild. You too. My own son. Security's on their way, the barista warned. Mom grabbed her purse, hands shaking. You'll regret this, both of you, when the family falls apart. The family's already apart, I said quietly. You broke it. Piece by piece, lie by lie. She left just as security arrived, nearly knocking over a display of travel mugs. The coffee shop slowly returned to its quiet murmur. Cade sat heavily in his chair. I'll do it. Whatever you need. Statements, testimony, everything. I looked at Zoe, who had tears in her eyes. Hey, sweetie, want to get a hot chocolate? She nodded, and I signaled the barista. Okay, Cade, I said finally. Let's talk about Seattle. The pieces were moving now, falling into place like a long-delayed justice. But looking at Zoe's crumpled drawing, I wondered what the real cost would be. The police station's fluorescent lights made everyone look sickly. I sat across from Detective Morris, watching her review Cade's statement. Your brother's testimony is illuminating, she said, closing the folder, especially regarding the gambling debts. I told you there was more to it. Much more. She tapped her pen against the desk. Your mother's been busy. We've identified 7 other victims in the family, including your Aunt Carol. A knock interrupted us. Dad stood in the doorway, looking older than I'd ever seen him. May I join? He asked quietly. Detective Morris gestured to the empty chair. Dad sat down, his hands trembling slightly as he pulled out a manila envelope. I found these in your mother's secret filing cabinet. He spread out documents across the detective's desk. Bank statements, loan applications, credit card bills, all with forged signatures. Ralph, Detective Morris leaned forward. You understand this implicates you as well, as a potential co-conspirator? I know. He met my eyes. That's why I'm here, to make it right. My throat tightened. Dad! I was a coward, he said. I saw what was happening. Watched your mother drain your accounts, steal your inheritance. I told myself it was for family, but... He wiped his eyes. I just didn't want to face it. My phone buzzed. A text from Cade. Mom knows. She's on her way. We need to hurry. I showed the detective the message. Officers are already stationed outside, she assured me. Your mother won't... Ralph! Mom's voice echoed through the station. How dare you? She burst into the office, mascara streaked down her face. 2 officers followed close behind. Ma'am, this is a restricted area. These are my children. She pointed at me. That ungrateful daughter turned my son against me, and now my husband, Mrs. Armstrong. Detective Morris stood. You need to leave, or you'll be arrested. Arrested? Mom laughed hysterically. For protecting my family, for helping my son. For fraud, I said quietly. For theft. For forging documents. Everything I did was for this family. No. Dad's voice was firm for the first time I could remember. Everything you did was for Cade, and you used our daughter to do it. Mom's face crumpled. Ralph, please, we can fix this. Fix what? I stood up. The credit cards you maxed out in my name, the loans you forged, or maybe Aunt Carol's retirement fund you emptied. Carol? Mom's voice wavered. How did you... She's here too, Detective Morris said, down the hall, giving her statement. Mom sank into a chair, her designer purse sliding to the floor. You don't understand. Cade needed consequences, Dad cut in. Instead, you taught him that money appears magically, that problems disappear if you take from others. Officers? Detective Morris nodded, and they stepped forward with handcuffs. No, Mom whispered. No, you can't. I'm family. I'm your mother. Sophia Armstrong, you're under arrest for identity theft, fraud, and financial exploitation, Detective Morris recited. You have the right to remain silent. I watched them lead her away, her protests fading down the hallway. Dad's hand found mine, squeezing gently. What happens now? He asked. Now. Detective Morris gathered the documents. We build our case. Your wife's looking at serious charges. Years, potentially. My phone buzzed again. Cade. Signed the lease in Seattle. Zoe's excited about her new school. And Cade? Dad asked, reading over my shoulder. He's cooperating, I said. In exchange for immunity, he'll testify about everything. Dad nodded slowly. Good. It's time we all face the truth. Detective Morris handed me a card. The victim support group meets Thursdays. Financial abuse in families. It's more common than you'd think. I pocketed the card as we walked out. In the parking lot, Dad stopped by his car. I listed the house, he said. Getting my own apartment next month. Dad, you don't have to... Yes, I do. He straightened his shoulders. I enabled her for 30 years. Watched her hurt you, hurt others. No more. I hugged him, breathing in the familiar scent of his aftershave. Where will you go? There's a complex near your place. Thought maybe... We could have coffee sometimes. Start over? I'd like that. As I drove home, my phone lit up with a photo from Cade, Zoe in front of their new apartment building in Seattle, grinning and holding up a peace sign. Maybe we were all starting over. Different cities, different lives, but maybe something better, something honest. The truth had torn us apart, but perhaps that's what we needed all along. The courthouse loomed before me, all stone and stern angles. 6 months had passed since Mom's arrest, and today was her sentencing hearing. I adjusted my blazer, checking my reflection in the car window. Ready? Aunt Carol appeared beside me, her normally perfect makeup subdued today. As I'll ever be. Inside, the courtroom filled quickly. Family members I hadn't seen in years filtered in. Cousins, uncles, aunts. Some nodded at me, others turned away. The divide was clear. Those Mom had stolen from, and those who thought family loyalty should trump everything. Dad sat in the front row, directly behind the prosecutor's table. I joined him, Aunt Carol on my other side. "Cade's flight landed," I whispered. "He's on his way." Dad nodded, his knuckles white as he gripped the bench. "How's Zoe? Loving Seattle. First grade's going well." The bailiff's voice cut through the murmurs. "All rise." Mom entered in handcuffs, wearing a navy dress that hung loose on her frame. Prison hadn't been kind to her. Her eyes found mine, pleading, but I looked away. The judge, a stern-faced woman in her 60s, reviewed the papers before her. "Quite the case we have here," the prosecutor stood. "Your Honor, the state has documented over 30 instances of fraud, identity theft, and financial exploitation. The defendant systematically targeted her own family members, stealing approximately $847,000 over 12 years. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Even I hadn't known the total amount. "The state recommends 8 years, given the scope and nature of the crimes." Mom's lawyer rose next. "Your Honor, my client understands the gravity of her actions. She acted out of maternal instinct, trying to help her son." "By stealing from her daughter?" The judge interrupted. "By draining her sister-in-law's retirement fund?" "She's willing to make restitution." "With what money?" Aunt Carol muttered beside me. The judge held up her hand. "Before I hear from the defendant, I understand several victims wish to speak." I stood first, walking to the podium. Mom's eyes followed me, brimming with tears. "My mother taught me about family," I began, my voice steady. "She taught me that love means sacrifice. What she really taught me was that love, in her world, meant control, meant ownership." I gripped the podium tighter. "She didn't just steal my money. She stole my trust, my credit score, my future. She stole years of my life that I spent working extra hours, taking side jobs, trying to fill a hole she kept digging deeper." The courtroom door opened, and Cade slipped in, taking a seat in the back. "I don't want revenge," I continued. "I want justice. I want her to understand that real love doesn't take. It gives. It builds. It doesn't destroy." More victims spoke. Aunt Carol about her emptied retirement account. Cousin Rachel about the student loans taken out in her name. Each story added another brick to the wall of Mom's crimes. Finally, Mom herself stood to speak. "My children were everything to me," she began, voice trembling. "When Cade needed help, Mrs. Armstrong," the judge cut in, "your son didn't need help. According to these records, he was receiving money for gambling, failed business ventures, and luxury purchases. Meanwhile, your daughter was working 60-hour weeks to support herself after you drained her accounts." "I was protecting my family!" "No." The judge's voice hardened. "You were stealing from your family. There's a difference." Mom sank back into her chair, shoulders shaking. Given the systematic nature of these crimes, the breach of trust, and the significant impact on multiple victims. The judge continued. I sentence you to 7 years in state prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release. You are ordered to pay restitution of $847,000 plus interest. The gavel struck with finality. As officers led Mom away, she called out, "Meredith, please, I'm your mother." I stayed seated, Dad's arm around my shoulders, until she was gone. In the courthouse hallway, Cade approached cautiously. Hey, yourself. I studied him. He looked different, cheaper clothes, but somehow more substantial. How's the new job? Tech support's not glamorous, but it's honest work. He shuffled his feet. Listen, I've been seeing a therapist, working through stuff. She thinks Mom might have narcissistic personality disorder. Doesn't excuse what she did. No, he agreed. Nothing does, but I'm learning to recognize the patterns, in her, in me. Dad joined us, his face tired but relieved. Dinner. All of us? I looked at our small group. Dad, Aunt Carol, Cade, me, what remained of our family after the storm. Yeah, I said. Dinner sounds good. As we walked out into the afternoon sun, my phone buzzed with a text from my victim support group. Proud of you. Standing up to family is the hardest battle. They were right. But standing up for yourself? That's how you win the war. 1 year after Mom's sentencing, I sat across from my financial advisor, reviewing the damage report. Your credit score's finally back above 700, Marcus said, sliding a document across his desk. The fraud alerts have been cleared, and the last of the false accounts are closed. What about the restitution payments? He shook his head. Nothing yet. Your mother's prison job pays minimum wage, and most of that goes to basic necessities. My phone lit up with Dad's message. Cade called. You should come over. We're done here, I told Marcus, gathering my papers. Thanks for everything. 20 minutes later, I pulled up to Dad's apartment complex. He'd downsized dramatically after selling the house, but the small one-bedroom suited him. I found him on his balcony, watering his new herb garden. What's the emergency? He pointed to his laptop. Cade's on video chat. My brother's face filled the screen, looking worried. Mary, thank God. We have a problem. When, don't we? It's Mom. She's been writing letters to Zoe. My stomach dropped. What kind of letters? Guilt trips. Telling her how lonely she is, how her family abandoned her. She sent one to Zoe's school yesterday. How did she get the school's address? Aunt Susan, Dad said grimly. She's been helping your mother stay connected with her granddaughter. I cursed under my breath. Aunt Susan had always been Mom's enabler. That's not all, Cade continued. Mom's lawyer is filing an appeal. Says she has new evidence that I coerced her into the fraud scheme. What evidence? Doesn't matter, Dad interrupted. The prosecutor called. They found offshore accounts in your mother's name. Significant amounts. I sat down hard. How much? Close to 2 million. Cade's face went pale. That's impossible. She always said she was broke. That's why she needed... To steal from us? I finished. Looks like she was hoarding money while crying poverty. The prosecutor's adding charges, Dad said. Money laundering, tax evasion. They're investigating Aunt Susan too now. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I opened it and felt my blood freeze. You think you've won. Money isn't everything, dear daughter, but family is. Ask Cade about the real reason he left town. Mom. Cade. I held up my phone. What's she talking about? He went quiet, avoiding the camera. Cade. There might be other loans before I left, under Dad's name. Dad's watering can clattered to the balcony floor. What? I was desperate. The gambling debts. Some people were making threats. Mom said she'd handle it, but she used Dad's identity again. I finished. How much? 300,000. Dad sank into a chair, head in his hands. The retirement account I couldn't access. That's where it went. I'm sorry. Cade's voice cracked. I'm working with the FBI now, telling them everything. Mom had this whole system, connections with loan sharks, offshore accounts. A sharp knock interrupted us. 2 FBI agents stood at Dad's door, badges out. Ms. Armstrong, we need to speak with you about your mother's financial activities. The next hour was a blur of questions, documents, and revelations. Mom hadn't just stolen from family. She'd been running a sophisticated money laundering operation for years, using family members' identities as covers. We're investigating several of your relatives, Agent Torres explained. Your Aunt Susan appears to be a major player. And the letters to my niece? I asked. Witness intimidation. We'll add it to the charges. After they left, I sat with Dad on his balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky orange. I should have known, he said quietly. 35 years of marriage, and I never really knew her. None of us did. My phone buzzed again, Cade sending a photo. Zoe at her school play, beaming in a princess costume. She's happy, I said, showing Dad, away from all this. Think we'll ever be normal? I thought about the support group meetings, the therapy sessions, the slow rebuilding of trust between those of us left standing. Normal's overrated, I replied. I'll settle for honest. Dad smiled slightly, picking up his fallen watering can. Your herbs are dying, I pointed out. Yeah, well, some things you have to let go of to grow something new. He was right. As the sky darkened and city lights began to twinkle, I felt something shift inside me. Mom's empire of lies was crumbling, taking down everyone who'd helped her build it. But here we were. Dad with his struggling herbs, Cade building a new life, me finally free of financial chains. Sometimes family isn't what you're born into. Sometimes it's what you build from the ashes of what burns down. The federal courthouse was bigger than the state one, all glass and steel reaching into the sky. This time, when I walked in, I wasn't alone. A line of family members stretched down the hallway, all of us victims, all of us witnesses. Ready for round 2? Aunt Carol squeezed my hand. The courtroom filled quickly. Mom sat at the defendant's table in an orange jumpsuit, her hair graying at the roots. Aunt Susan sat beside her, no longer looking like the polished socialite she'd once been. All rise! The federal judge, a sharp-eyed man in his 50s, wasted no time. We're here for the arraignment of additional charges. Money laundering, tax evasion, conspiracy. I tuned out the legal jargon, focusing instead on Mum's face as each charge was read. She didn't look sorry. She looked angry. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, we've uncovered evidence of a decades-long financial conspiracy. Mrs. Armstrong and her co-conspirator, Susan Walsh, used family members' identities to funnel millions through offshore accounts. Objection! Mom's new lawyer jumped up. My client was merely trying to protect her family's assets. By stealing them? The judge raised an eyebrow. A commotion at the back of the courtroom drew everyone's attention. Cade walked in, followed by 2 FBI agents. Mom's face lit up. Honey, you came! But Cade walked straight to the prosecutor's table, placing a thick folder down. No, Mom whispered. No, you wouldn't. The witness may approach, the judge instructed. Cade took the stand, his voice steady. For years, I thought Mom was helping me, but she was using me, using all of us. The gambling debts, she introduced me to the bookies. The failed businesses, she sabotaged them to keep me dependent. Lies. Mom stood up, shackles rattling. I gave you everything. You gave me nothing, Cade replied. You stole everything. From me, from Meredith, from everyone. And then you taught me to do the same. Order. The judge banged his gavel. Aunt Susan leaned over to whisper something to Mom, but a marshal stepped between them. Mr. Armstrong, the prosecutor continued, tell us about the offshore accounts. Mom set them up years ago. She had contacts in banking, people who helped hide the money. Every time she stole from family, half went to gambling debts, half went offshore. And Ms. Walsh's role? Aunt Susan managed the accounts. She also scouted new victims in the family, gathered personal information during holiday dinners, birthday parties. I thought of all those family gatherings, how Aunt Susan always seemed so interested in everyone's lives. She'd been mining us for data all along. The evidence mounted, bank statements, wire transfers, secret recordings Cade had made. With each revelation, Mom seemed to shrink smaller, her rage replacing with something like fear. Finally, the judge spoke. Given the scope of these new charges, combined with the existing state convictions, I'm denying bail for both defendants. Your Honor, Mom stood again. My granddaughter needs me. My family. Your family, the judge cut in, is here testifying against you. That should tell you something. He shuffled his papers. Trial is set for 3 months from today. Defendants are remanded to custody. As the marshals led Mom and Aunt Susan away, Mom turned to me. Meredith, tell them I did it for you. No, Mom, you did it for yourself. You always did. In the hallway afterward, Cade looked drained. That was brutal, I finished, but necessary. The FBI says she could get 20 years. Good. Dad joined us, holding his phone. That was the forensic accountant. They found more accounts. The total's closer to 4 million now. Jesus, Cade whispered. They'll seize it all, I said. Maybe we'll finally get restitution. Money's not the point anymore, Dad replied. It's about stopping the cycle. My phone buzzed, a video call from Seattle. I answered to find Zoe's face filling the screen. Aunt Mary! Dad! Grandpa! Look! She held up a report card full of A's. I did it all by myself. That's amazing, sweetheart. Cade's entire face softened. Can we get ice cream to celebrate? Sure, but first... Cade took a deep breath. Remember how we talked about Grandma doing bad things? Well, today we helped make sure she can't do them anymore. Zoe nodded solemnly. Is that why she can't send me letters anymore? Exactly. Good. They made me sad anyway. She brightened. Can we get chocolate sprinkles on the ice cream? We all laughed, the tension breaking like a fever. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited with cameras and microphones. But we slipped out the back, heading to Dad's car. Dinner, he suggested. That new place by the river? Perfect, I said, because that's what family really is. Not the ones who steal your future, but the ones who help you build a new one. The autumn breeze carried the scent of coffee as I sat outside my favorite cafe, reviewing the final restitution paperwork. Mom's offshore accounts had yielded enough to repay everyone she'd stolen from, with interest. The federal trial had ended with a 23-year sentence for her, and 15 for Aunt Susan. Mind if I join you? I looked up to find Rachel, my cousin, holding 2 fresh lattes. Perfect timing. She sat down, eyeing the papers. So it's really over? Almost. I signed the last document. Just need to file these tomorrow. My phone lit up with Cade's message. Zoe got the lead in the school play. Opening night next week. Coming home for it? Going to Seattle? Rachel asked, reading over my shoulder. Yeah, Dad's coming too. We thought we'd make a weekend of it. Must be nice, having a normal family relationship finally. I laughed. Normal's stretching it. But honest? Yeah, that part's nice. The cafe door chimed, and we both tensed instinctively. But it was just another customer, not Mom's lawyer with more appeals, not another FBI agent with questions. I still flinch, Rachel admitted. Every time my phone rings, every unexpected visitor. The therapist says that'll fade. Eventually. Speaking of therapy, she pulled out her phone, showing me a group chat. Some of us cousins were thinking of starting a support group for family members of white-collar criminals. Bit specific, don't you think? You'd be surprised how many of us are out there. People reached out after the trial went public. Lots of families dealing with this exact thing. I sipped my coffee, considering. What would we do? Share stories, support each other, help people spot the warning signs we all missed. She paused. Maybe even prevent other families from going through what we did. My phone buzzed again. Dad sending a photo of his thriving herb garden, now expanded to tomatoes and peppers. Look at this, I showed Rachel. Remember when Uncle Ralph couldn't keep a cactus alive? People change, she smiled, when you let them. When they want to, I corrected. A notification popped up, an email from the prison. Mom's monthly attempt at contact, right on schedule. I deleted it without reading. Still not talking to her? Nothing to say. I gathered the restitution papers. She had decades to tell the truth. Now she can live with it. Rachel nodded, then brightened. Oh, did you hear about Aunt Susan's daughter? She's working with prosecutors, helping track down other financial fraud rings. Turning poison into medicine? Something like that. We watched people pass by, business professionals, students, families, normal lives untouched by the kind of betrayal we'd survived. I'm buying a house, I said suddenly. The bank approved my loan yesterday. Clean credit score, solid income, everything Mom tried to destroy. That's amazing. Where? That neighborhood by the park. The one Mom always said was beneath our status. Rachel laughed. Perfect. My phone lit up with a video call from Zoe. I answered to find her bouncing with excitement. Aunt Mary, I got my costume. Want to see? Of course. She propped the phone up and twirled in a sparkling dress. I'm playing Annie. Dad says you're coming to opening night. Wouldn't miss it. Is there a song about trust funds in that musical? Mary. Cade's voice came from off-screen, laughing. Just checking. I winked at Zoe. Keep practicing, superstar. After hanging up, Rachel helped me gather my things. Want to grab dinner? The cousins are meeting at that new Thai place. The one Mom would have called questionably authentic. That's the one. I looked at the stack of papers in my bag, the final chapter of Mom's reign over our finances, our choices, our lives. The restitution wouldn't erase what happened, but it marked an ending, and more importantly, a beginning. You know what? I stood up. Let's get really crazy and order the spiciest thing on the menu. Mom would hate that. Exactly. Walking to the restaurant, I felt lighter than I had in years. The autumn air was crisp with possibility, and ahead of me stretched a future unburdened by secrets and schemes. Some people say you can't choose your family, but sometimes, if you're brave enough to face the truth, your real family chooses you. They show up with coffee and understanding, with honest conversations and spicy Thai food, with small victories and new beginnings. And sometimes, they help you build something better from the ruins of what was lost. That's not just karma, that's justice. And it tastes sweeter than any revenge.